Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for stopping into my channel. Today I'm going to go over a question I get asked quite a bit, and I feel like it's a good video, to go over. How much did I spend on my LS swap on my 98 Chevy half-ton four-wheel drive? And the answer is not a lot. So I'm going to pull the truck in here. I'll kind of go over all the parts I bought, give you a rough estimate of how much I paid for them. The swap took a lot longer than I thought it was, so I'll have to go back and look and see how much I paid for things. But at any rate, we'll get it pulled in here, I'll go over it, and I'll show you guys what I did. So this is just your standard 5.3. I've gone over a couple times. 6-liter cam, ported intake manifold, ported throttle body, flat top pistons, and that is pretty much it. So it's nothing fancy. It runs pretty darn good. But I guess we'll get into it. First of all, I'm not going to add the cost of the engine to this price because, for one, I didn't pay anything for it because I bought a 6-liter for my black truck and used the 5.3 in this. And there's such a variance on how much you pay for an engine. Some people pay upwards of $2,000 for a complete harness and everything. And some people say they get a running engine for $300. So that will be left up to you to find, get an engine for whatever you can. Everything else I'll go over and we'll add it up and see how much I paid. So I'm going to just start going over the parts. I'll write everything down as I'm going, and I'll show you guys the list at the end. I'm not going to include parts like aftermarket, I guess it's all aftermarket, but like performance upgrades. Like I put flat top pistons in it and head studs. Why, I don't know, but I did. Or they're eBay head studs, so they're cheap ones. I wanted to see if they're worth the crap. It seemed fine, but anyway, I'm gonna go over everything, write it down as we go, not counting additional stuff. So just, we're talking what it takes to get an engine in here running and you can drive it. So first, I guess we'll talk about motor mounts. I just bought the eBay 1-inch setback plates. Those cost me $35. They worked pretty darn good. They did not have the hole milled out of the middle. The stock clamshells have a hump on the back. You have to grind it flat so they sit flush on the motor mounts adapters. So that's first. Next, I got this eBay intake. You can use a factory intake. I've seen people make it work. This was only $40. I had to trim it a little bit because it was a little too long, but it works. One of the areas you can save yourself a lot of money is doing your own harness. This was the first one I've ever done, so it's not like I'm a pro at this by any means, and I'm not a good electrician. So if I can do it, most people can. You just got to take your time. Don't get overwhelmed by it, but I did my own harness. However, a plug-and-play harness, the cheapest I have seen is $450, upwards to $1,000. So that is probably the biggest reason I did not go with a plug-and-play harness and decided to make my own, because that is not money I was willing to spend on a harness that I thought I could do myself, and I did. Did not turn out to be very hard. I did not probably go the most popular route, at least what people say on the pages I'm on. I pretty much use the 5.3 harness. Some people use the OBS harness out of the 5.7. I figured this engine came with this harness, so I'm going to use this one. There are a couple things you keep from the old harness and you plug into here. That's a different video, but making your own harness, you can save yourself a lot of money. But for the loom and maybe some, this little fuse box relay deal, a couple butt connectors and ends. I still got a little cleaning up to do over here, but I probably spent, we'll just round it up and say 40 bucks. And piggybacking off the harness, the next thing you need to do is get your computer flashed. You need to find somebody that knows about this swap, because there's a couple things they have to change in the computer. Not just deleting VATs, but they have to change like the speedometer output, the RPM output, so your gauges work correctly. I went with Bauer Performance. He's an online guy, Facebook page, and I believe on eBay. I'm very happy with it. Truck runs great. Only paid $55 for him to flash this. It's my computer. I got it with the harness. So if you can get your own harness, like the engine comes with all this, you're gonna save yourself a lot of time and money. So 55 bucks. One area that I might add the price of an aftermarket one. You do not have to, but the fan, this is the factory fan clutch. It just does not quite fit all the way into the shroud. I've heard you can use the NBS, like the engine, the truck that this engine came out of, and you can make it work on here, or you can just go E-fans. This works. I have not driven it on a super hot day, so I do not know if it will keep up with the temperature, but I didn't go this route, so I guess I won't include it. I think I will be putting electric fans on this pretty soon, but like I said before, that's another video, so we're not going to count the cost of that for now, I guess. If you are drive-by cable, which this truck came like that, you can use your factory throttle cable. You can get one out of an NBS truck, like I said, the 99-302, and I've heard they fit. I just stuck with the factory one, just kind of snaked it around, and it works great. I did, however, pull the cruise control cable off of a 99-302, so if you want to keep cruise control, you pull it out. This is the factory box, so you just disconnect it from the 99-302 Silverado and plug it into the OBS cruise control module, and it fits great. So that was a pick and pull item. I think I paid 5 bucks. So let's say you only got the engine, you didn't need a harness. I went to pick and pull and yanked a harness just because I had nothing better to do that day with the computer. No sensors or anything, but just the harness and computer. I paid $14. So that is why I said if you do your own harness, you're gonna save yourself a lot of money. It's kind of a pain, but you can end up routing it the way you like. Get rid of things you don't need. You can shorten wires. I mean, it's nice to have it plug and play, but I prefer to save myself money and do it myself. So we'll add $14 to the build cost. Coming over here to the back with the fuel fittings, you have to get two fittings to convert the factory fuel lines to AN. You need about 8 or 10 inches of AN hose. The hose ends, and then the fuel rail fitting adapters. I do have a video on going over all of that, so as before, I will not get into it. You don't need very much hose. I think I bought 3 feet of it, and with all the fittings total, I spent $84. That sounds expensive, but if you just buy 2 at a time, you know, it's not bad. It's because they're CNC parts, so they're like 10 or 11 bucks each, and you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so it adds up. But yeah, $84. One maintenance item that you don't need to, I went with the LS1 3-wire coolant temp sensor for this, because 2 wires go to the computer, 1 wire goes to the gauge. That was roughly 30 bucks for the sensor and the pigtail to connect to the factory wires. Another sensor you're gonna have to worry about is the oil pressure sensor, because the oil pressure sensor for this truck does not fit the block, so you have to get an adapter. I believe I paid $12 for that. So I think for as far as under the hood goes, that is pretty much it. Like I said, I've done a couple upgrades to it, but that is completely up to you, what you want to do and how far you want to go. It's been my experience that once you start doing performance upgrades, it kind of snowballs, just like my black truck. But yeah, so that I believe is it for up here. So now we're going to go to the exhaust. So for the Y pipe, I use the Jegs Off-Road Y pipe. It fits pretty darn good. Again, this is an area where you can spend a little more money and go with full length headers or something else. I decided to keep factory manifolds and just this Y pipe. Luckily for me, I know a guy that knows how to weld, so we're kind of working on the exhaust. We have a ways to go, but at any rate, That cost me $140, however it was on sale, so we will go with current price at $190. There's a lot of different routes you can go. I'm doing it as cheap as possible. I bought 4 foot of straight tubing from Summit. I bought a Summit muffler. Both of those I think were like 20 or 30 bucks a piece, so not expensive at all. But I guess for the sake of the argument, we'll add it to my build cost. Now, as far as the transmission goes, I kept the factory 98 transmissions. So these ones work. The older ones do not. I do not know the cutoff year. I think it's 97, but I'm not positive. But I do know that the 98 transmission will work with this computer and with this truck, so I didn't have to mess with any of the driveline after that. And that is pretty much all that I did to put this thing in here. So I guess now I'm not going to add it to the build cost, but I will go over some things that may add to your build. So I decided just to get rid of the AC. This is not a perfect truck by any means. It's got dents. It'll probably be somebody's wheeling truck or high school truck. So I got rid of the AC. The factory AC does not clear the frame on these trucks, so that is not an option. The factory AC for the 5.3. The factory AC for this truck goes here. So you have to buy a bracket or make a bracket, put it here, and then move the alternator to this side. The brackets I've seen for that are pretty expensive, $265-ish. I'm going to attempt to make my own because I have a 99 Yukon that I picked up for very cheap, and we plan on LS swapping that as well. But that is something to think about. Now, like I said, I got this computer tuned from a guy online. There's not a lot done to this, so it wasn't probably very in-depth. But if you start going the route where you start, going with cams, bigger injectors, long tube headers, you're probably going to want a custom tune, like an in-person tune. There's only so much an online person is going to be able to do for you because they cannot see how the truck is reacting to the changes they're making. They're going to be very conservative and leave some power on the table, but they have to because it's their name they're putting on the line, and there's only, like I said, there's only so much that they can know from what you tell them. So our build list is not very long. Like I said, keep in mind I did not count the cost of an engine because some people will spend a lot more than others. It's just how it is. I didn't buy a trans or anything, so I didn't have to, add that to my cost. But at any rate, I'm going to add this up real quick and show you the total. I spent a total of $606 getting this engine in the truck and running. I will say that is pretty darn cheap. So you got to consider the engine. I know that, but for me it was a byproduct of a different project. That's my black truck. I got the 6.0. So we used the 5.3 in that. I did do some upgrades to it, like I said, so I actually spent more on the swap. But to get the engine in here and working, if you are just wanting to do an LS swap, or maybe you want to get rid of your boat anchor of a 350 and go this route, it's really not going to cost you an arm and a leg. If you are at all mechanically inclined and even a little bit inclined to do electrical work like this, which really isn't hard, it can be done. I did it. This one took me a while because I was learning the process, but it works. It drives. I've driven it. It runs great. I love it. I can't wait to start on the Yukon. I'll show you that real quick. So I hope I helped shed some light on just how cheap these engine swaps can be. And there really is not a lot going on to it. This is probably the easiest swap you can do because it's a Chevy engine into a Chevy truck, so everything is pretty close. And it's even things like the power steering pump. That is the 5.3 power steering pump, and the lines fit on this truck, so there's nothing you have to change. So to me, it's a very worthwhile swap for all the gains and everything. The old 350 got like 8 or 9 miles a gallon, and it was stock with an exhaust. This thing, I haven't logged enough, but I know it's going to get better than 8 miles a gallon. So once again, thank you guys for stopping in. I very do much so appreciate it. Think about subscribing. follow along. We got some more stuff coming. My 6.0 is getting a bigger cam. We're putting bigger E-fans on it. We want to do a junkyard LS swap. My wife's 65 pickup. We were doing an LS swap on the Yukon. So we got a lot going on. Thank you for stopping in. Take care, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, and check out my Instagram, endlesswishlist 6.0.